Okay, so you are live now.
Okay.
But we'll get started in a couple of minutes.
All right.
All right. I guess people are joining in, so we'll get started.
Okay.
Awesome. Hello and welcome everyone to this session on Agile Portfolio Management by one of our gold sponsors, Microsoft. And we have Jim and Matt to walk us through this presentation. I'm actually equally curious, along with all the attendees, as to what this entails. So Jim, please take it away.
All right. Well, thank you for the introduction. Yes, my name is Jim Patterson, and I'm with a company called Wickersoft. We'll talk a little bit more about what Wickersoft does and our role in the project and portfolio management ecosystem. But our topic today is Agile portfolio management with Project Online and trends that illustrate why you can't afford to miss this wave. Topics we're going to discuss today are going to be the current trends and why the marketplace is driving the need for this type of solution. We'll talk about some unified PPM and Agile concepts and bringing those worlds together. Then I'll have Matthew Willey join us also from Wickersoft and do a demonstration of some of these things live in Project Online. And then we'll do some summary and wrap up and have some special offers for the attendees as well. So with that, let's get into the meat of the presentation. So let's talk about the current trends that are driving the needs for a solution like this. It's really about the rise in technology. It's really about the digital transformation wave that's going on in the marketplace today. Traditional businesses are all becoming essentially software businesses at their core. Traditional brick and mortar businesses like department stores are giving way to the business models of an Amazon, the old blockbusters to Netflix. Transportation with things like app shares like Uber and Lyft, et cetera. Even getting soft drinks at our fast food restaurants are becoming more software-driven type of experiences with those stations that have computerized selections. The idea here is it's not just about the technology, but it's about finding new ways of business and new business models and leveraging those to reach our customers in new business models and new ways and new revenue opportunities. The idea with all this technology, it's driving the nature of our projects more and more to the technological end and the digital transformation side, but it impacts all areas of our business. From the executives up to the CEO, who have to really strategize and find the ways to tap into this new wave, to maximize that and take advantage of revenue opportunities. To the PMOs that now have a rapidly diverse amount of projects and types of projects that they have to manage with different methodologies and different approaches. The software development teams that have to fulfill on these things and actually bring these things to light in a quality fashion. And then they have to be supported. So when you have customers that are leveraging these things in the marketplace, you have to have a good customer experience. So it really impacts all kinds of people in the organization. A lot of that's driving the wave for this technological approach. And the world is changing in the way we do business. In the past, we had longer product cycles, steady as she goes, stage gate and phased projects. But really, we're faced with rapid innovation because of the fact that our windows are closing and becoming shorter. The response to the marketplace has to be more instantaneous so that we don't get left behind and that we can maintain our market leadership edge as companies. Even communication has gone from simple things like email to more social collaboration and more real-time types of things that we need to do to collaborate in getting these things done. And then the traditional workplace, the office place, has become much more diverse and distributed. Telecommuting and distributed teams on a global fashion is the order of the day now, more than the other way around. And then less data and more focused data into the project management world is really being replaced by big, more robust data sets that we have to make some sense out of and leverage that to maintain our edge. So ultimately, change is the new norm. Because the marketplace is changing more quickly and we have to respond to change in a more instantaneous fashion. In the past, where we have more of a slow-paced, steady-as-she-goes environment where we could actually work on bigger projects and have longer lead times to develop, that slow-paced type of approach really needs to be modified in the current landscape. We must address an unpredictable business environment and constantly planning and responding to change. So meaning instead of deciding on what we're going to do and then go on to delivery for an extended period of time, we're always constantly readjusting and adapting to the changes that are put upon us, whether it be marketplace, whether it be opportunities, or whether it just be the needs of the customer. And this is bringing in the needs where more and more agile project management is being done, and the adoption's on the rise. Version 1 has for a number of years has done a State of Agile survey, and the latest one in 2018 came with some interesting statistics. One of which is that 97% of the organizations polled are practicing Agile somewhere within the organization. That's up from 80% just in 2011, and even lower numbers just not too long prior to that. Meaning, this doesn't say everyone's adopting Agile across the board for all their projects, but it means it's being done in 97% of the organizations that were surveyed. That's quite an adoption rate, or quite an influx of Agile approaches being used in organizations. And then, there are still concerns. While teams are generally adopting Agile to become more nimble and more responsive to change, eliminate overhead and deliver more quickly, leadership always doesn't buy on to the same degree. And there's some concerns about Agile adoption, like the perception that there's a lack of upfront planning, that management does lose control and visibility, that there's a lack of predictability in it. And the idea there is some of that might be valid. Some of it may be just concerns or us being used to doing things in a certain way. But the idea is that having a blended approach that meets the needs of both senior management as well as the needs of project and program delivery is something that is something people are searching for in the marketplace. Now, PMI in their publication, Capturing the Value of Project Management Through Organizational Agility, says that smarter organizations realizing that using agile techniques such as Scrum or DevOps approaches is not the only or even the best indicator of an organization's speed or flexibility, and that most organizations are more likely to use several different project management approaches, meaning it's not a one-size-fits-all. Different types of projects may lend themselves to different approaches or frameworks or methodologies. Not all projects may lend themselves to more agile approaches, but some of them, especially on the technology end and delivery of the technology or product development or new product development, may lend itself very nicely to more agile approaches, where maybe the infrastructure or other types of projects may not. And the idea is to use them intelligently where it fits the best and meets the needs of the project teams. It seems to be the smarter way to go. Now, today, because we have all these different types of work, it has spawned up different solutions. And we have a whole array, typically, of disconnected systems and processes in organizations. You know, in the middle, the silo of our traditional project management, using things like Microsoft Project, Project Server, Project Online, or even things like people have developed things in SharePoint and other project management tools for more waterfall types of approaches, is one way or one type of work that might be managed in a certain system. And then you have application management or application development or software development that's being managed in more software development environments that have agile development work management tools, things like Visual Studio, VSTS or TFS, Jira, version 1, some others just to name a few, are more developed or geared towards using more agile approaches to the projects. And then you have more unstructured work, things in the service management realm, things in tools like ServiceNow or Microsoft Dynamics. So yet another silo of other operational or unplanned or unstructured work that comes in via requests or incidents or things like that is also a mix. And then that doesn't even count the numbers of spreadsheets and other tools people have developed in order to handle other types of work. The upshot of that is people or resources that have to fulfill on these things in an organization are often managing or monitoring several different systems and spreadsheets and other methods in order to get a handle on everything that's on their plate and not even know what is the highest priority or what should be managed first. And the idea is we can do a better job of bringing these things together. So technology-driven challenges are, how do I find my way through this maze of processes and applications to manage my work, okay, as a person? The idea is that we have all these different types of symptoms that happen, especially the lack of cross-functional efficiency across different information silos and different departments within organizations. And the idea is we really can't afford to have these roadblocks or these inefficiencies in our methods, because we have to be effective and quick in delivering to the marketplace today. And the barriers, and this brick wall is not the metaphor that's used by accident, is that can we afford the things that happen because of these silos, right? Low response times, you know, confused and unhappy employees, communication barriers, both internally and within our customers, overworking our resources because we don't have good visibility into just how much is on their plate, which could result in dissatisfaction or even turnover. Just lost productivities and ineffective ways of working, which ultimately will flow through to the customer in a perception of that we're not meeting their needs as good as we can or as well as we can. So let's go into the unified PPM and Agile concept that we're going to be discussing and demonstrating today. The Gartner Group, back in 2015, coined the term bimodal and used it in terms of bimodal IT, where mode 1 was the more traditional PPM approach, more governance-driven type of approach that is used, a more linear approach and more steady as she goes type of methodology. The analogy there is a marathon runner and having longer cycle times and using things like waterfall approaches or stage gate or phase gate methodologies in order to deliver our projects. Mode 2 defined as more the agile approach, nonlinear, involving iterative types of approaches and emphasizing agility and speed and managing uncertainty and responding to change. The analogy there is more of a sprinter, using shorter cycle times or iterations and using approaches like Agile and the variations of that, or Lean or Kanban types of approaches. But it's really two separate yet coherent modes of delivery. One is focused more on stability and the other one on agility. And the idea is there are valid reasons, we believe, for using both within an organization or using them in tandem. So from a disconnection perspective, traditional PPM, say for example the domain of the PMO, oftentimes in many organizations, Agile is perceived as a little bit of a black hole to them. They don't maybe have real-time visibility into the business deliverables when people are using Agile or teams are using Agile. And it's difficult for them to get a holistic portfolio together to leadership to include both the traditional PPM type of driven projects versus the Agile projects that are being done on sticky notes or other tools within an organization. And the idea is to be able to get that holistic view very easily without having a lot of manual mashing up of data in order to do that can be very painful. The Agile teams, on the other hand, look at sometimes the traditional PPM or governance-driven processes as high overhead and getting in the way of why they went Agile in the first place, to deliver more quickly and respond to change. Sometimes they look at it as unnecessary overhead. But the paradox there is that it often breeds duplicate entries because they do have to feed back to management status and maybe even do timesheet entries and other things that they end up having to do in more than one place in order to make that work between the organization. And getting that inefficiency out is something that we're driving to do. So what we want to do is find the right balance between just enough governance, visibility, insight, and control, with enough agility to respond to the marketplace and be relevant in the market, so we can have enough innovation and time to market. The idea is that finding that balance is what we want to do systematically and process-wise. So if we think about it, if we have all these different systems, they each might have their own portfolios of work that might be managed in these different disconnected systems, if they have the ability to do portfolio management at all. And the idea here is, in a unified PPM and Agile solution, we would say that you'd have a holistic portfolio or portfolios of different programs or product lines. And it doesn't matter what the methodology it's being used, whether it's traditional, more waterfall types of approaches or more agile approaches. The idea is they should all be able to manage and have visibility and report up to leadership in a common way if we do this correctly in a new hybrid project management world. So if we think about this, business strategy tried to work execution, and we look at the blue bar across the top of the screen, which really illustrates Project Online and its full end-to-end capabilities as a project and portfolio management solution. It's really designed to be that. And Project Online does a very nice job of the portfolio and program management side of things. But on the execution side, if you go down the left branch for more waterfall types of approaches, people have traditionally used a Microsoft project for its real strong waterfall type scheduling approaches. Now, Microsoft Project has just recently added some new and basic Agile capabilities within Project that you can use. I encourage you to explore those, and we're going to be showing you some of that today. But oftentimes in the interim, because that's just fairly recently added, people have adopted other Agile tools, like I mentioned earlier on. They've used Visual Studio, TFS, or VSTS Online, Jira, just to name a few. And the idea they're executing on those things. And in the world that we're looking at here, using Wickersoft's OneConnect as a Microsoft cloud-based connection platform, allowing teams to continue to execute in tools that have been designed for that Agile approach, but have it feed seamlessly to the portfolio for roll-up so that leadership can actually see how their investments are tracking, regardless of whether or not they're using the native Microsoft Project or Project Web Access, or if they're using an Agile tool like Visual Studio or Jira. And then even lighter weight tools, things like using things like Office 365 Planner, which many people are using today, or other SharePoint types of things, or other lighter weight project management tools might feed into that portfolio as well, enabled by OneConnect from Wickersoft. And we'll show you some of that today. So the concepts that we're going to address today is the fact that in all cases, Project Online, and the graphic at the top is really about the Project Center or Project Online performing all the program and portfolio management functions, including intake, meaning having a common intake or request mechanism so that you can initiate projects, you can vet them, you can properly approve them, right, and do investment approval and do financial and capacity planning against those things are still the domain of the PPM solution, because they do that very well. Now, if you're going to do a traditional waterfall project, there's no need to go any further. You can use Microsoft Project or Project Web Access in that Project Online environment and actually have that feed very nicely back in updating the portfolio and having a central repository of all that information. What Project has added in the past is some templates now and some capabilities to do both Scrum and Kanban style projects. And with that, you can actually go in and do backlog planning. You can do sprint planning. There's task boards and iterations that you can build in, whether it's iterative for more of a Scrum type of approach or more Kanban flow type of approach. It accommodates both of those. So in essence, you're still using Project, you're just using a different view and approach within the Project tool that enables more agile interaction and more agile-like visualizations of the work as you're going on through. Now, using another tool, and this is pretty key where people have already gone down the road and the train has already left the station on using other agile tools. Another common one in the Microsoft world is in Visual Studio using TFS or Visual Studio Team Services, VSTS. The idea being is it shouldn't matter, and it doesn't with Wickersoft's OneConnect, that we do all the project and portfolio, all the portfolio management work up front, all the investment approval and intake of projects in Project Online. But when the agile planning or the details are meant to be done, we can actually leverage the agile-based execution pieces within Visual Studio to feed or be the planner that feeds the portfolio in Project Online instead of or in lieu of Microsoft Project. Meaning you can plan your backlogs and your hierarchy of your epics, features, stories, tasks, and bugs and such, plan your iterations and sprints and update those things in Visual Studio and have those updates seamlessly applied to Project Online without the Visual Studio users having to do anything extra beyond what they're normally doing. The same use case, exactly same use case, holds true if teams are using Jira, another popular Agile-based tool that's being used out there. Now, the key here is that the portfolio management is still driven by Project Online, whether it be the project requests that come in and get evaluated, whether it be the portfolio scenario analyses that are done with the portfolio analysis capabilities of Project Online to select the right projects, or even the higher level capacity planning to see whether or not we have the resources to do this or what resources we would need to go get in what mixes to be able to get this work done. That's still done with Project Online. And also we have the opportunity, because we can manage resources in both the Agile tools and natively on board in Project Online, we can bring together those worlds so that we can get a more complete and more holistic capacity and demand planning and execution view of the resources that we need across all types of projects. Typically, there are now siloed pieces of information, or at best, incomplete pieces of information in one of the tools. And the same thing with time reporting. The ability to actually put time or hours spent or actual hours into an Agile tool and log that work there and actually have it feed and populate properly the timesheet in Project Online will eliminate the Agile team's need to do duplicate statusing of their tasks or their work within the Agile tool and then having to go do it in another timesheet to meet the needs of the organization. Once again, improving efficiencies. And ultimately, because all this data is going to end up in Project Online, and Matthew will show that to you here shortly, the idea is that we can do reporting of both traditional portfolio management KPIs and metrics, the things that leadership is looking for on kind of spend, on how we're doing on progress, and other things that give them a comfort level that these projects are tracking, but also at the same time being able to see the Agile metrics and things like burn ups and burn downs and velocity charts, et cetera, and be able to do all that reporting from a common rich set of data that we're building in this hybrid world. So with that, hopefully I've set the stage a little bit for some of the concepts around Agile portfolio management with Project Online. Now I'd like to turn this over to Matthew and let him share a little bit about how this works in execution in the Microsoft technologies.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Jim. All right, so I'm logged in here into Project Online. Project Online is part of the Office 365 stack, and it works really well with a lot of the other applications within Office 365. So for example, if I upload a document into a project site, I can access that from OneDrive. We'll see how we can report off of Project Online data with Power BI, et cetera, et cetera. And so what we're looking at here is a list of all of our different projects, and we can see some of these projects are requested, some are approved, some are in progress, so kind of through the full life cycle here. And I can see status of these: overall health, schedule health, work health, resource cost issues, and even a high-level timeline, roadmap, Gantt, whatever you want to call that over here on the side, depending on your terminology. Um, and so Project Online allows you to go in and to prioritize and figure out, what are we going to do? When can we do it? What's going to give me the most value? And there's a full portfolio analysis module built in to allow me to do that. And or you can intake in ideas with different information and go through different levels of approvals to get from a requested state to a approved or in progress state, so that we can then go and start detailed planning. So no matter how your upfront process is, how you're getting to the state of, okay, now this is approved, we have budget, we have resources, so on and so forth, and utilizing all the great capabilities within Project Online to get to that point and help manage that. Now we're ready to go execute on the project and start, building our more detailed plan and actually getting to work on the work. Traditionally, I would come in and I would select a project, and I could say I want to open that up in Microsoft Project. And there's an online planner where I can go and build a waterfall project schedule, or I could start from a template, so you can leverage some best practice templates. You don't have to build things from scratch every time. Or I might come here and say I want to open it up in Project Desktop. Traditionally, that was all waterfall, but as Jim mentioned, now you can actually do Agile planning in here as well. So if you're looking for some lightweight Agile planning right built in, those capabilities are available now. And they're ever growing. In each new release, there are new capabilities that are added to this to make it a little more robust. But what we're looking at here is, first I can come in and create a backlog of the different items I want to do. I want to create a new homepage. I want to integrate with VSTS. I want to fix bugs, performance improvement, whatever it might be. And then we can take these, if we're doing Scrum and or some iterative methodology of Agile, then I can come and drag and drop these into different sprints. Sprint 1, I'm going to do the new homepage, and I'm going to do the VSTS integration. We're going to fix some bugs and do some new reports. In Sprint 2, we're going to do the performance improvements and the CSS style updates, whatever it might be. So now I'm planned into sprints. At a high level, here are the things we want to do in each sprint. From there, I can go into my current sprint board, and I can start to update the status on these items that were planned into my current sprint, which is Sprint 1, just by dragging and drop these over. So here are my next up items. This guy's in progress. This one's completed, and so on and so forth. You can continue to drag and drop and move things as they go from one status to the next. So this allows me to have a Agile Kanban board view of the world, all right here within Project Desktop. And so that's a great new capability, and that'll continue to grow, and more capabilities will be built into that. But as Jim mentioned, in many organizations, your Agile teams may already be embedded into a specific tool. And that tool may have lots of other capabilities built into it, more DevOps capabilities like source code control, test management, whatever it might be, extra DevOps capabilities beyond just the work management component of it. And that's absolutely fine. For those cases, instead of trying to rip them out of there, which is going to create problems, it's going to create confusion, inefficiency, so on and so forth, instead we can connect up to tools that people are already using. So instead of coming in and saying I want to open this in Project Desktop, I can come here, and let's say I was using VSTS, which is Visual Studio Team Services. It's the cloud version of what is still called TFS, Team Foundation Server. It's the on-prem version. So either way, you can go to TFS or VSTS. In this case, I'll go to VSTS. And so when I click this button right here, instead of it opening up Project Desktop, it's actually going to take me into this project over in VSTS. If the project doesn't already exist yet in VSTS, it will create it at that point and then link those two things together. Otherwise, it's just an easy link to get me over here so I can then come in, do the planning I want. If I'm a developer, let's say, and I work in VSTS all day long, I would still just log into VSTS like I always do. And come in and start working on my items and updating status and so on and so forth. But up front here, we might want to build out a plan. We might want to build out some different epics. We want to break those down into different features, break those features down into user stories down into tasks and bugs. And you're not locked into this structure by any means. This is just an example. You can utilize whatever different levels of the hierarchy that you are currently using over here to break things down. And from there, then I can plan those items into sprints or iterations. So I would simply just drag and drop, for example, to grab these user stories and drag those into a particular sprint or iteration, and saying, here's when I think I can get those things done based off of priority. Then if I go into my sprint, we can be assigning these different work items to people. We can be updating the status by dragging and dropping them from one status to the next. I can also put in effort estimates and actual hours estimates if you choose to track that. This could be in points if you wanted to do so as well. But I could say, I think it's going to take about 8 hours to do this. I've spent 10 hours. I have 1 hour remaining, so it's taking a little bit longer than my original estimate. Excuse me. And all of that information, the updating of the status, the updating of the timesheet hours there, if you want to call it that, the actual hours, the assignments, and as I add all of these items, all of this is going to flow back into Project Online in a meaningful way. That can happen automatically on a timer, so it can run every hour, it can run every night, as frequently as you want that to run, to grab the new information over here in the updates and take that back to Project Online. You can also do it manually, or on demand, I should say, by going and clicking a button in here that will push that information back over into Project Online. So, jumping back into Project Online, how does that look? Why do we do this? What value do we get out of that? So let's jump in and take a look. If I click into my Fabricam project here, the project that we were just building out over in VSTS, and I come into the schedule view, I'm going to switch my view here. We can come in and look at things in many different ways. So, for example, let's say I wanted to see a view that was very similar, or the same as, really, the backlog view that we saw over in VSTS. This is that. So it's showing me my epics broken down into features, into user stories, and then detailed tasks and bugs below it. And I can start to get information like start and finishes based off of what iteration it was planned into. So it's taking the sprint's start and finish date there. Percent complete as we're working on it. Who is it assigned to? So on and so forth. If I wanted to look at this a little bit of a different way, I could flip this to, say, group it by sprint. So I can understand, okay, here's what's planned into sprint or iteration 1. Here's what's planned into sprint or iteration 2, so on and so forth. So instead of having that black hole that Jim was talking about, this allows us to effectively get visibility into the status of the work and what's coming up next, and kind of see the roadmap there without people having to do a lot of manual communication through meetings and such, and or duplicate entry of information in multiple systems. People just keep working in VSTS how they already do, and the relevant information flows back over here into Project Online. And the integration is actually configurable, so you can pick and choose how much or how little, what detail that you want to bring over, just by when we go and set up that integration, picking and choosing the field mappings and such. So, what does that do for us? 1, gives us the status. Number 2, it gives us more of a view from a resource management perspective. So, a lot of times a question of who is working on what, who has availability, who doesn't, can be a difficult question to answer in many organizations. To do that, you may have to manage other separate Excel spreadsheets that are always out of date, and try to manually mush data together from multiple places, and so on and so forth. And that can be very challenging, inefficient, and just not work very well at the end of the day. Here, I can come in and select my resources, like, say, my business analysts. And if I go into my capacity planning view here, now I'm not just seeing their capacity versus work for just the waterfall work over here in Project Online, but I'm also pulling in my Agile work from my Agile systems, in this case VSTS, TFS, but we can do the same types of use cases with other tools like, say, Jira, for example. And so what I'm looking at is, okay, Amy is working on multiple different projects. She's over-allocated, way over-allocated in some periods of time. Some of these projects might be managed over in VSTS, TFS. Some might be managed here in Project Online. It doesn't matter. We're bringing that all together so we have apples to apples and can really see a total workload. And then if there's operational workload going on as well, we can bring that into the mix, either from your operational tool or just create kind of operational buckets, placeholders for that work, so you can really get a full picture of everybody's working on, what they're working on. For example, Lisa here is working on the partner help desk, a percentage of her time, and so that's taking up some things as well as other things she might be working on. So it really gives me that full picture, and we'll see some more reports in a little while that allow us to drill into that more in lots of different ways you can look at that information. But the point is, it brings it all together. Next up, we can also bring in time. In many organizations, there's still a requirement around tracking time. We need to know who spent how many hours on what, and that may be utilized for financial purposes to figure out what's CapEx, what's OpEx, and eventually feed into a financial system, whether that's Oracle, SAP, Workday, or others. And so instead of people having to, at the end of the week, come into Project Online and put in their time here, as well as they have already probably put some time in over on VSTS side, we can just simply send that information over. So when I come into my timesheet at the end of the week, I might just need to put in some things that aren't tracked in VSTS, like admin time, sick time, vacation, and or if there were some waterfall project work that I might have been working on as well, or operational work, I might put in my time for those things. Save and submit, and then that all goes into one place. So we now have one picture of where all the time is going without anyone having to, dual entry, put information into multiple systems. It's hard enough to get people to do their timesheets one time, let alone multiple times in multiple systems. So that can be a great benefit for some as well. So at the end of the day then, as we're working on these projects and all the data is feeding to the different places, we can also generate some really robust reports and dashboards to give managers, executives, stakeholders, and others visibility into what's going on in a very meaningful way so that better decisions can be made. And we can make sure that we're staying on track and delivering on what we said we were going to do and keeping within budgets and so on and so forth. So this particular dashboard here over in Power BI, and Power BI, if you're not familiar with it, is the Office 365 cloud reporting tool. And it's a really great, robust tool. It allows you to report off lots of different sources, not just Project Online or VSTS for that matter, and others. There's tons of different data points that you can tap into and create these types of dashboards. And what we're looking at here is what I call our Agile PPM portfolio dashboard. On the left-hand side, we're looking at more traditional waterfall metrics like portfolio cost and risk and ROI. But the cool part here is we're not just looking at our waterfall projects. This is the true total portfolio cost of waterfall and Agile projects, and maybe even some hybrid projects where some of it's Agile, some of it's waterfall. Doesn't matter because we're bringing it all together in one place to get one total of what's going on. Down here we can get projects and status. Some of them are Agile, some of them are waterfall, some of them are hybrid. Doesn't matter, we're bringing them all together. But on the right side of my dashboard here, I can see things like sprint burnups or burn downs, more traditional Agile types of metrics. Bug trends over time. Are we going up? Are we going down? Hopefully we're going down. Cumulative flow diagrams of user stories. Are we keeping up with the demand of new feature requests and stories that our user base is giving us? So on and so forth. And so if I'm a manager, let's say a portfolio manager or a program manager, someone who looks over, department manager, whatever it might be, who looks over lots of different projects, and some might be Agile and some not, I don't want to go to the Agile tool to see Agile reports and go to the waterfall tool to see waterfall reports. I want to go to one place, one dashboard, and see all of that information all together. And this allows me to do that. From there, if I click on any one of these and or the resource capabilities, whatever it might be across all that, let's say the project status, I'll click on that one. It will then drill me in and I can go get a lot more information if I choose to do so. So I can start at a very high level and or I can drill in down into a lot more details. So I drilled into the project status report here, and so now this is showing me my different projects grouped up by portfolio, but this could be grouped by program or department, whatever it might be, how those projects are doing. 4 of them are off track, 6 have overdue issues, 22 are behind schedule, 17 are behind budget. And again, some of these are Agile, some of these are waterfall, maybe managed in different systems or not, but it all rolls together without having to do any manual effort there to do so. And then I can come into my pie chart here and go, I just want to see where overall status is red, and click on that piece of the pie and just focus it on my problem projects. Or if I just wanted to look at a specific portfolio, I could come in and filter this down just for my cost portfolio of projects, so on and so forth, and utilize the filters and such to drill into just the information I want to see. And then across the bottom, I can go into the different tabs here to see all the different aspects of these projects and their status. I can look at it more from a timeline or roadmap perspective and see when these things are planning to happen. I can go into a more schedule status. Am I on track? Am I off track? Are we behind schedule? Are we on schedule? I can look at financials and or cost information around these different projects, budgets versus actuals, what's remaining, so on and so forth. All the way down the line and see all the different aspects of these projects and get into, even if I want to get down to detailed risks that have been identified for each of these projects, whether they're Agile or not, and show these things in risk matrices and so on and so forth. So by bringing the relevant data together and then reporting off of it within Power BI, we can enable decision makers, managers, executives, et cetera, to really have all that information at their fingertips in near real time without having to do a lot of manual data gymnastics, requiring people to do manual dual entries and so on and so forth that can be very, very inefficient. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Jim for just a couple more slides, and then we'll let you guys go for the day. There you go, Jim.
All right, can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right, terrific. Let me get back there. Well, thank you, Matthew. That was a great demonstration of the capabilities of how we bring these worlds together and mitigate the current separation we have between disconnected processes and systems. So with that, let's do a little summarization and wrap up. What makes that integration with things like Visual Studio and Jira possible is Wickersoft's OneConnect. In that case, Project Online does remain the center of the universe from a project and portfolio management perspective, but OneConnect, as Matthew showed you, brings in the data that's being planned in execution and details in Visual Studio, Jira, or other Agile tools. But by no means does OneConnect limit to that use case. It can actually bring into Project Online information to and from your financial systems, from more lightweight types of project management tools. People are using things like Office 365 Planner and other lighter weight tools today. Your service management tools, your CRM systems to bring in that can be input into what becomes your projects and more customer-facing type of projects. The idea is that there's many more use cases for OneConnect beyond just the Agile piece that we're talking about today. So the value of this integration that we saw today is it really provides improved portfolio alignment to organizational goals and objectives because we are dealing with holistically the entire portfolio of projects regardless of what method or what teams are working on that project. And we get robust portfolio management and robust PPM software in Project Online that can integrate all work into a single view with the help of OneConnect by bringing that into a common forum. OneConnect quickly and reliably brings disparate business systems together. So the silos that we started with in our premise to this whole thing in that concept piece really melts away and becomes more of a seamless approach using these different tools, but have them working in concert into a common process. And ultimately, we can get a holistic view of resource availability and efficiency across all work, which ultimately gives us the ability to do better forecasting and set more realistic expectations for our customers, both internal and external. Overall, just improved governance for planning, executing, and reporting across all projects. Now, the value of doing this hybrid project management, it keeps users working in their primary and preferred tools and solutions. If they're working in things like Visual Studio, like we showed you here today, and it's working out well for them, it's lacking in the portfolio management capabilities there. So by bringing them together, we give them the best of both worlds, but keep them in their preferred solution. Also one that they're used to working in. And it also allows users to work in tools appropriate for their role and maturity. So for example, using other tools like Office 365 Planner might be more appropriate for certain types of projects or users. It also improves user adoption by minimizing unnecessary complexity by getting the right tools in the right hands of the people for the right tasks. And overall, a better user experience will drive better participation and compliance. If people are happy with the tools that they're using and they're a better fit for what they're doing, you end up with more compliance and more participation. Ultimately, better collaboration across all areas of the business without having to manually mash up data all the time for reporting cycles, which can be very, very painful and very time-consuming in a lot of organizations. So if you want to know more, we are Wickersoft. We're founded as a joint venture with Microsoft back in 2002, and Microsoft still is a part owner of the company. But we are a triple gold certified Microsoft partner. Only 1% of partners or less have that designation. We have proficiencies in project and portfolio management, collaboration and content, and cloud productivity. We have a global footprint and a very strong force here in North America. I would say that we are classified as a one-stop shop. We provide business applications like we saw here today. One of them is the OneConnect for the connection platform. So other tools that we've developed to help augment the Microsoft technologies, as well as consulting services to deploy and implement these solutions. We also provide all the education and training. And if needed, we have staffing services and often offer managed services to help people in the operation of things if there's a fit or a need for that in your organization. We do this across all of the Microsoft Cloud platforms. So we focus today on the project and portfolio management in Project Online, but we also have expertise with the Agile piece in Visual Studio, as well as just overall digital workplace efforts using things like SharePoint and Office 365. And that extends to overall work management with things like Dynamics 365 from Microsoft with professional services automation, as well as field service management. Once again, in that whole concept of bringing all work together. And once again, they all tie together in the Microsoft Cloud, and they also leverage Power BI, which means you have strong reporting like Matthew showed you earlier on. As far as next steps, we'd like to thank you for being here at our presentation today. Some special offers. If you're interested in seeing how this could be deployed within your organization, we're happy to offer you at no charge an assessment and a roadmap to what it might take to get you from where you're at into these technologies. As part of that, we can also offer you a chaperoned by Wickersoft Project Online trial to see and have you get hands-on with this to see if it's a good fit for you. Also, because we gave a very generalized demonstration on these concepts, if you want something more personalized with your use cases, we're happy to do a more one-on-one tailored demonstration for your organization. You can reach us via email at contactus@wickersoft.com. For more information, you can go to us.wickersoft.com, and we have a specific Project Online subsite on that for project-online.com. We do webinars like this all the time. We have a rich library of on-demand ones that have been done and recorded, or we have some upcoming ones you might want to review by going to wickersoft.com/webinars. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for attending today and spending some of your valuable time with us here today at the virtual conference. And hopefully we'll have a chance to serve you and talk with you more in the future. Are there other questions that we need to address that are on the chat line?
I think we're all good.
Oh, a reminder, we do have a booth. We are a sponsor, and we do have a booth with a lot of good information about this and many other topics. By just visiting the booth, you'll get entered into a raffle for our Project Academy, which is an online reference and training guide for both Microsoft Project Desktop and Project Online. It's searchable, referenceable, and it's always updated with the latest and greatest updates from Project and Project Online. So unlike a hard copy book, it doesn't get outdated and become a doorstop. So please visit us. Just by stopping in and visiting, you'll be entered in that raffle, and you may win a copy of the Project Academy. So thank you again, and hope you all have a great day.
Awesome. Thank you, Jim and Matt, for the awesome presentation. If the attendees have further questions, they can definitely reach out to the speakers or Microsoft in general at their virtual booth, and also the email address that is being shown on the screen right now. One more reminder, there is a session feedback button on the homepage on the event lobby. So please make sure you provide us some feedback so that we can fix anything that went wrong and do more of what went right next time. That would be helpful for all of us.
And if they want a copy of the slides that were presented today, just reach out to us and we'll happy to send them to you.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you.